Hey everybody, and welcome back to another lecture with Coding with Roby. And in this lecture, we're going to upgrade our application to now create a new database table called address. So let's start and get going with it. The first thing we want to do is open up our terminal, and we can see everything that we used for the last lecture. And here I'm going to say Alembic revision -m, and then in quotation marks, I'm going to say create address table. Here we can see that we are generating our new address table, and if I close our terminal, we can see that a new revision appeared. And I'm going to close some of these other files that we have open, and now we can see that we have a revision. Now, one thing that might be different is this down revision from what we saw before. If we open up our other revision file, we can see that there is no down revision. And that's because the down revision is actually the root before we started using Alembic. However, when we hop into our new revision, we can see our revision number or our revision ID is this sequence. However, our down revision points to our last revision that we made. And that's because if we say downgrade to this revision, it'll change all of the Alembic modifications to the revision beforehand. And I'll show an example later on. Well, now let's go down to our def upgrade. And here we're going to create a new table for our database. And this table is going to be called database. So we can start by saying op.create_table, parentheses, and the first parameter is going to be address, which is going to be the table name. And then after that, we're going to be adding in all the columns of our database. So then we're going to say comma sa.column. First parameter is going to be ID of type sa.integer. Nullable is going to be equal to false, and our primary key will be equal to true. We will then say sa.column address1 as sa.string. Nullable equals false. sa.column address2. sa.string also is nullable false. sa.column city is also of string nullable false. sa.column of state is a string and also nullable false. sa.column of country, sa.string nullable false. And lastly, our sa.column of postal code, sa.string nullable false. And then for our downgrade, we would want to say op.dropTable address. All right, so now we have our address, we have our ID, address1, address2, city, state, country, and postal code. And if we want to drop a revision, we can drop our address. Let's open up our terminal. We can say Alembic upgrade revision number. And we can see that we created our new address table. So if we open up our Postgres and we go to our to-do application and we open up our tables, wherever those are. Here we go. Inside our schemas, public, and our tables, if we refresh this, we can see that we now have our address and a new table called Alembic version, which is going to hold revisions of our Alembic migrations. So if we go into our address and we say select all from address, it's going to be completely empty, but here we can see our ID, address 1, address 2, city, state, country, and postal code. Awesome stuff. However, now if we go back to users, we can see that we have our new phone number, but we don't have a foreign key column to connect to our address. And we're going to want some type of relationship. So to do this, we're going to do the same thing that we did for our last column of upgrading our phone number. We're going to create a new revision, do a upgrade for our new column, which is going to be a address ID, which is going to be the foreign key to our address. However, we're also going to create a relationship, and we can cascade by also doing a special type of code in our migration. So I'll show you how to do that. If we go back to our application and we say Alembic revision-m add a new user column for address, we can see that it generates a new revision with a new unique revision ID. If we open up this revision, we can see that it brings us down to our new table, or it upgrades us to whatever we write here. And here we're going to do the exact same thing that we did with phone number, and then I'll show you how to do the foreign key relationship right after. So the first thing we need to do is say op.addColumn to our users, sa.column address ID, of type integer, and nullable is true. So we're going to say it's allowed to be null. So this command will say op.addColumn of users, where the column is going to be called address ID, where it's going to be of type integer and nullable equals true. However, we know that this command is only going to create a new column. It's not going to have any type of relationship to our address table that we just created. So right under this, we're going to have to create the relationship. So let's type in op.createForeignKey, whereas the first parameter, we're going to say address underscore users underscore foreign key. Source table, which is the current source table that we're using, is going to be of type users. Our referent table is going to be of address. Our local calls are going to be to our address ID, while our remote calls are going to be to the ID of the address table. And we want to make sure that it's cascade while on delete. And our downgrade, we need to first drop the constraint of address users foreign key with the table name of users. and then op.drop column of user's address ID. All right, so let's try this in action. Let's open up our terminal and type in Alembic upgrade with the new revision ID, where we can now see that we have successfully updated our address ID with a constraint. So now if we go back to our users and we run it, we can see that we have a new address ID of type integer. And if we right click on users and we go to properties, we click advanced or constraints, click constraints, and then foreign key, we can see that our address user's foreign key is of address ID to the address. So perfect. So our address ID is actually a constraint and a foreign key relationship of a cascade to our address database. Awesome, awesome stuff. So we have now used Alembic to upgrade our users column twice to now include a phone number and an address ID while creating an entirely new table called address. This is awesome, awesome stuff. Extremely advanced, and we're able to now enhance our database real time. This wraps up this video on how we can use Alembic to create an entirely new table and a relationship to a new column that we created. And I will see you in the next video.